Hello and welcome to the third episode out of the 4 planned podcasts on IDMP, or Identification of Medicinal Products. In this episode, we set the coming IDMP requirement led by the European Medicines Agency a bit aside and look at what to be aware of when IDMP is not a health authority requirement. We will focus on the expected ripple effect of IDMP for marketing authorization holder partners, so manufacturers and other suppliers of drug products and related materials, or companies delivering content into the drug product dossier. This podcast may include insights for the marketing authorization holders and drug development companies, but they are not our main focus of today. My name is Anne Pousset, and I'm a senior consultant at Epista Life Science. I work to support and guide my clients when they're facing new challenges, primarily in the area of regulatory affairs, IDMP being a good example. Marketing authorization holders with products on the market in the European Union will use IDMP to communicate and provide information about their medicinal products to the European Medicines Agency, perhaps as early as from February 2022. The IDMP scope is broad and broader than the existing product information provided to the Extended Eurovigilance Medicinal Product Database ex-EVMPD. The data submission is only likely to happen with input from multiple stakeholders, making it more of a common effort both within the marketing authorization holder organization but also reaching out and affecting more collaboration partners. IDMP will change the way of intercompany collaboration and expectations to data and document deliverables. More alignment and harmonization of data will be required, and the question is how partners of marketing authorization holders best prepare and take these changes into account. A brief jump to the requirement. EU member states, marketing authorization holders and the EMA are mandated to use ISO IDMP standards for the exchange and communication of information on medicinal products. Where does this leave you? Do you communicate and exchange medicinal product information with any of these instances? If yes, then it's likely that over time they will expect you to change how you communicate too. IDMP is a de jure standard, or it's actually a family of standards under the International Standardization Organization ISO. The 5 main standards allow for unique identification of medicinal products, here under pharmaceutical products and substances. IDMP will be implemented in the life science industry over the next years due to a European Commission legal requirement. More health authorities have declared interest on embarking on the ISO IDMP journey. The FDA is well progressing but are following a different path, and for now we can only relate to the EU implementation as use is mandated. Implementation of IDMP or elements thereof greatly impacts the marketing authorization holders, who will have to submit product-related data alongside with the drug product dossier on everything from initial applications to life cycle changes. IDMP-aligned data will provide the EMA leverage to track product data across regulatory areas and in more detail than possible today. Therefore, a more targeted communication may be expected in the future. IDMP will greatly affect your marketing authorization collaboration partners, and we expect to see a certain ripple effect to other organizations like yours. Being prepared and having a strategy will ensure you are not caught off guard when the alignment requests from your partners come, or when your regulatory system vendor is proposing use of the OMS log IDs for identification of organizations. So you have to consider what IDMP is to you, and I will recommend that an IDMP identification analysis is made. Consider closely as we go through this podcast what makes sense to you and your organization. There may be reasons to wait and see what the marketing authorization holder partners require, Perhaps they do not expect any changes to data delivered or to document content provided. The identification analysis is a preparatory activity, and I believe that time spent collecting that knowledge and getting oversight is not wasted, no matter what your next steps may be. The minimum activity will be to create a solid knowledge base. This will allow that the decision to act or not react is qualified, that affected topics can be identified and described, that risk assessments can be conducted, and eventually secure outcome and a route to follow. Therefore, first ensure that there is sufficient IDMP knowledge in-house. Get an understanding of the product data scope the marketing authorization holders need to deliver to the EMA, but also aim to get an understanding of the EMA use cases and how the EMA Master Data Initiative SPORE and the databases OMS, RMS, SMS, and PMS are intended. This is not an easy task, but there's help to get. The marketing authorization holders has been on this journey for years now and have collected loads of experiences that they may want to share. And there are multiple consultancy houses like Epista who will be able to help as well. Then brainstorm and identify the topics relevant for your situation. We will look at a few use cases in this podcast, but I'm sure there are more when you first start digging. Build high-level use cases with focus on data scope, level of importance, and timing for action. Also consider the stakeholders in the organization that it makes sense to involve. Why this focus? Well, we are eventually going to deliver data, either as a byproduct to our deliverables or embedded in our deliverables. So for each use case, understanding the data scope is essential. Not all use cases may be important now. For instance, if you're not planning to exchange regulatory systems within the foreseeable future, then this is not a relevant topic. But you may need to consider how to handle delivering IDMP-aligned data with your partners. Timing should be considered, both with respect to internal related initiatives. For instance, I'm thinking of an ongoing master data initiative in the organization, where the regulatory product data could represent parts of the scope. Timing is also relevant if your marketing authorization holder partners have already asked to receive data in a specific way, leading to changes to existing agreements. For relevant and urgent use cases, build more detailed business cases with recommendations for actual implementation. Here are 3 examples on topics that could be both relevant and urgent. Firstly, we will look at an example of a use case of supporting the marketing authorization holder partners with IDMP-aligned data and documents for securing early harmonization on use of terms. Then we dive into the topic of data standardization, where IDMP can act as an important piece to the puzzle of master data for product data. And lastly, we will briefly touch on those regulatory systems that will secure you can support IDMP data alignment. In this example, we see how IDMP set new rules for how data and documents are delivered for submission of a product dossier in a given market. Let's say you are a substance manufacturer who delivers substances and substance-related documents for the 3.2s part of the Common Technical Document. The IDMP requirement includes information on the substance manufacturer and on the substance itself. It's likely to expect that your marketing authorization holder partner will require the substance manufacturer organization described as registered in the OMS database, or at least matched with the appropriate log ID that is in the database. The substance information should likewise be mapped or aligned with the substance and IDs in the SMS database. And as both manufacturer and substance information is utilizing standardized terms for control vocabularies present in the RMS database, there may be alignment needed to certain term lists. Securing the right data is in place for data exchange with the authorities, will result in changes to contractual terms to ensure IDMP harmonization of data and document deliverables. The next IDMP-related topic is data standardization. A data standard is a rule or a set of rules on how particular data types are structured, defined, formatted, and used, for instance, in exchange between systems. There's a lot of talk these days about the importance of establishing data governance, whereof data standards are important cornerstones. Data standards are multidimensional. They secure proper aligned communication within and across organizational silos, but data standards eventually also secure that data can be tracked back in time. IDMP is an example of a data standard framework and an opportunity for securing data standardization of your medicinal product data. Implementing data standards seems to be a good idea and a logic step to achieve more control of data. So why have so few embarked on this journey? The answer is founded in a mix of the way we have worked and are still working in silos, the organizational growth and changes over time, not to mention the data growth and changes over time. The continuous increase in complexity is leading to the realization that this cannot last. We have a growing need for data to provide the answers and have built workarounds on the ever-increasing volumes of data to be able to do so. These patchwork solutions are expensive. They are time-consuming and often reduces our trust in data or even limits our access to data. Taking up the torch is a challenge, especially in mature and complex organizations. So many have coped with the current state of data for a long time and made the best out of it. What pushed the use of data standards now are to a large degree health authority requirements imposing the pharmaceutical industry to adhere to specific data standards like IDMP, alongside with other requirements on use of specific formats like the ECTD and following regulatory processes that are moving towards a more structured approach like the electronic application form moving to the digital application dataset integration. Let's take a closer look at some of the activities where data standards play an important role. Zooming in on the area of regulatory affairs, where of course the IDMP requirement has resulted in a need for the marketing authorization holders to establish new business processes for the maintenance of the SPOR data. Speaking of SPOR and the use, then non-marketing authorization holders may consider utilizing parts of SPOR internally as well. Especially the controlled vocabularies from both the EMA and third-party standardization organizations like EDQM and WHO are key for the ability to establish master data, facilitating improved use of RIM systems and for data quality improvement activities. In other areas of the organization, it's likewise activities to facilitate the ability to communicate and share data that are supported by data standards. For instance, when adhering to the regulatory requirements like the Falsified Medicines Directive or exchanging trial-specific documents between sponsors and CROs. So with data standards, we are able to establish a security in data. This can help an organization to reach important objectives like trusting data, because this will save time as you avoid having the business to double-checking data correctness in documents and tracking in personal Excel file. Allowing the same data to be used and reused across the organization. So if master data is in place for core data in a company and data is considered the source of truth, then it improves the company's ability to communicate and get oversight on operational activities that were not possible before. And then of course data alignment, or at least facilitating data mapping ability to fulfill regulatory requirements for data exchange with authorities and or with partners. Our third and last IDMP topic example is changes to regulatory systems, that being plan changes to an existing system, replacement of a regulatory system, or simply acquiring a new regulatory system. Any vendor is likely committed to meet the IDMP compliance deadlines in the EU. No matter the change, you will need to define during the project planning phase if IDMP or elements thereof are in scope. So I would like to point back to the identification analysis, because this will help you being able to take the decisions based on a solid knowledge foundation. If your regulatory system should support use cases on IDMP, it's crucial that you know these use cases at an early state. Your regulatory systems are the tools that will deliver the ability to support your marketing authorization holder partners with IDMP-ready deliverables. Including the identification analysis as part of the project planning will help you to understand those use cases and leverage that knowledge during the system design activities. Finally, there is the notion that control vocabularies support not only structuring data within your regulatory system, but also can be used in a broader sense. For instance, using the EDQM standard terms on pharmaceutical dose forms across the organization. This will allow for new ways of viewing and utilizing data. Now we have been through what I wanted to share with you on the topic of IDMP for non-marketing authorization holders. To wrap up, here are the key takeaways. IDMP is a topic that can be used in broader terms than just adhering to a regulatory requirement. It is a standard that in itself may be implemented in any organization where it makes sense to establish data standards for medicinal product data. Get help to level up the IDMP understanding in-house. Eventually start by listening to the first Epista FAQ on IDMP. Also get an understanding of the EMA use cases and SPOR. Found out how you can go about the IDMP data you may deliver to marketing authorization holder partners or others. Aim for a simple solution that all can accept, and I'm sure this is easier said than done. Taking the lead here to guide your partners will benefit the smoothness of the process for you. Remember to update your agreements with your partners accordingly. Run an identification analysis. This will help to understand scope and your ability to deliver IDMP-ready data. Also, it will help to plan and prioritize next steps. If you have data harmonization activities ongoing or planned, consider if IDMP has a role in these activities. Identify if there are other activities on systems or processes where IDMP may be considered, or if you're implementing a new regulatory system, define the role IDMP will play. Think about it, and do not hesitate to reach out to me if you have further questions on this topic. Thank you for your time, and see you soon.